Good evening, guys. Last wrap of the week. Just gone 5:30 here in London, and as you can see, the markets have moved a fair bit today. Obviously, non-farm payrolls day, always a volatile release, and we're just, well, you can see almost pared back most of the move from that 130. The morning, as usual, pretty quiet. Not much was going on. I think the most exciting thing was probably Bitcoin going below the lows. It briefly got under 8,000. Currently now just under 9. So standard day for Bitcoin there. Obviously the main release as mentioned, non-farm payrolls. Let's have a quick look at the numbers that did come in. The headline number 200,000, so a beat on the expectations there. As you can see, a solid number that came out. I'm just going to drag over trading live here just to run through. Let's go back to 130. So yeah, unemployment rate 4.1, in line as expected. What really gave the dollar the strength at the time was the US average earnings year-on-year figure coming in 2.9, better than the 2.6. We saw a breakthrough in the pivot here for the euro, so that got open. And the move sort of continued down. The dollar was strong all round. Obviously, if we have a look over at the pound, don't know where I'll type that in, over at the pound, you can see similar reaction. Aussie dollar, similar. And then gold as well, really following through very strongly through the S1, through the S2, through the lows of the week. T-notes as well, continuing its down move. Yes, recently we have had a bit of a bounce. Nothing really has come from that. I have to say, when the release did come out, yes, the average earnings were better, but I didn't really feel it was that it warranted this reaction. So I do feel we're going to look to pair these losses, I guess, if you like, for the pairs. Euro at quite an interesting level. I was monitoring it. Unfortunately, it was away from my desk at the time, but you can see, just looking at the trend of the market, oh yeah, it's from this one here, just matching up a few of those lows there and hitting it quite nicely. The pound, something very similar, looking back at the sort of the beginning of January as well, marking up quite well to that low there on a 240. It did briefly actually break that, so you can see it should draw up to this one here, but just having a brief bounce now for cable, as well as all the other dollar pairs. Another interesting day for equities, which we'll come on to, but with this dollar strength, you saw oil coming under a bit of pressure as well. Pivot, which had held well early in the morning, breaking through, coming down, and again with that dollar just weakening a touch, pairing some of those losses back. So you're seeing the dollar having strengthened, just coming under a tad bit of pressure, a bit of profit taken really into the end of the week as well, you've got to imagine. With T-notes going down, with gold going down, with the dollar strengthening, that whole monetary policy correlation move, equities of course came under pressure, and you can see here S&P really from that 130, let me just circle up there, just pretty much on 130. I know S1 would have been a great trade in hindsight to take on, but obviously the data came out, so you have to wait for that. But yeah, equities coming down and still relatively near those lows. Dow Jones similar, and obviously the Nasdaq fell into that picture as well. In terms of the levels we've got to on the larger scale, Nasdaq finding support on the levels we saw on the 18th. Dow Jones didn't quite make what is a really key level, you have to say, but breaking through 26,000 early morning. The lowest 16th is definitely one to be aware of. S&P broke through a strong support level that we saw on also the 18th, 19th. You'd have to say there's still some big levels to the downside, which will definitely attract the buyer dippers. We're having a little bounce at the moment, but nothing to suggest that this is the low. The FTSE 100, let me just make this a chart a bit bigger. Found some good support earlier. We have previously just broken through that, but with everything that's taken a breather, we've regained that to the upside, but another one to keep an eye on there for sure, coming into the close of the week. As mentioned in the last few wraps, it's going to be an interesting time for the US equities on those weekly charts, just to have a look, where we finish. Let me just mark this up so you can see really closing behind below the previous up week. It does look very ominous for any bulls that are still in this market. You have to say the downside is favourable until maybe we sort of look to calm down a bit. And obviously this is without the pivots, but it might well be that we get a test of these levels into next week for the S&P. Here for the Dow, and the Nasdaq could well come down to those points not seen since middle of January. So definitely an interesting time in the markets. Have a look over at the DAX as well, which continued its down move this morning and into the afternoon. A couple of good opportunities, and not more so than the classic of the morning low. Really nice trade, and you can see not too far away from the actual day's lows where we're trading now. There is a really big level on the DAX. Well, you can see it there on the week. Let me just draw that up, maybe if we lower the time frame. What was the low of 2018? We are now actually negative for the year from where we opened, but yeah, lovely area of support, you have to say. That could attract some buyers into this market. However, you know, the DAX, choppy market, and one to be taken with caution for sure. We had some other data out this afternoon. Obviously, when you have the non-farms, any data from then on that day is always less concentrated on, I should say, Michigan consumer expectations 86.3, and the sentiment 95.7, both beats of expectations. But now, yet very much the data and the moves are probably done for the week. I wouldn't be expecting too much going forward. I would definitely be focusing on US equities, T-notes as well. Are we going to continue to see this rise in yield or lower price, which is having that effect, that drag down on US equities as well? Is the DAX going to continue to see pressure? I would be having these important low points, these important levels marked up, just to see, well, what could happen if we break through there from a technical point of view. Let me just make this maybe a daily chart just to get the full width of things. You can see it does really open the door to perhaps, well, around here, September level. So obviously we made a new all-time high not too long ago for the DAX, and it's quite interesting to see us down here. I feel it's going to be a good place to buy soon. Timing will be key. But we'll wrap it there for the day. I hope you all have a good weekend. Enjoy the Six Nations, and hopefully Arsenal get a win tomorrow on Theo's return. But yeah, any questions, obviously send me an email, or we'll speak to you Monday morning. But I hope you have a fantastic weekend.